Update on the plane crash that killed 2 earlier this month. And a rabid fox was spotted in the county, what health department officials are saying. Plus, we take a look at a never-ending lightning storm.
Live and on demand, this is WNY News Now.
Thank you for joining us for WNY News Now. I'm Bronson Rasmussen. Those stories and more are coming up, but first.
This is WNY News Now with live breaking news.
Just into our newsroom, officials are expressing shock and sadness as the death of one state trooper in PA and the critical wounding of another hours apart just happened over the weekend. Now, Erie News Now learned this information that the trooper was killed from Corey, PA area, according to state police and sources close to the family. Now, this is an updated story, and we will let you know as more happens. Be sure to stay connected to us through our app at WNY News Now. In other news, a preliminary report has been released following the plane crash that killed 2 earlier this month at the Jamestown airport. The journey was revealed to have been an instructional flight. The 2 Canadian certified pilots departed from Ontario, Canada. The purpose of the flight was reported to be a combination of training and to work on exporting another aircraft to the States for sale. According to witnesses, the ADS-B data, the plane had made one successful touch and go landing prior to the crashing. A touch and go landing is commonly practiced when learning to fly a plane. The second time the maneuver was attempted, however, at around 100 to 200 feet in the air, the aircraft banked left, leveled, then banked right. Soon after, the flight's parachute system was deployed. The airplane then crashed into a wooded area of the airport before being mostly consumed by flame. The 2 pilots were killed in the crash, and the aircraft was subsequently destroyed. While officers of the Jamestown Police Department Violent Crime Unit conducted a traffic stop Sunday evening in the area of Baker Street and Prather Avenue on a vehicle that had made numerous traffic infractions. After stopping the vehicle, it was determined that the operator was an Uber driver transporting 2 passengers from the city's south side. The duo, Anarchy Jester and Jonathan Carlson, were both taken into custody. Carlson was found to have outstanding warrants out of the Jamestown Police Department, and after a search of his person, multiple items associated with illegal drug use were discovered, which prompted a search of a vehicle. Inside, officers received 22.8 grams of meth, 1.2 grams of fentanyl, 1.6 grams of crack cocaine, and other various substance paraphernalia. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that the items belonged to Jester, and the pair were transported to Jamestown City Jail, where Jester was charged with criminal possession of a controlled substance, criminal using drug paraphernalia, and criminal possession of a weapon. Carlson was held on outstanding warrants pending arraignment. The Uber driver was released with traffic tickets to appear in the Jamestown City Court at a later date. In an update in Chautauqua County, the health department has confirmed that rabies is in the area. A rabid animal was spotted earlier this month. Now on Friday, June 9th, multiple individuals claim to have been bitten by a gray fox in the Bemis Point area. A New York State Department of Environmental Conservation officer then killed the fox, sending it in for testing, where the results confirmed that it was a carrier of rabies. The county is following up with individuals that sustained bites from the diseased animal to make sure that they are receiving proper medical attention. Now, animals inflicted with the rabies virus will have varied reactions. Some may become aggressive, while others become docile. It is important to notify the health department if you suspect an animal or yourself to have come in contact with the virus. Rabies is almost always fatal when left untreated. In accordance with New York State law, all dogs, cats, and domesticated ferrets must be vaccinated against rabies starting at the months of age that will require regular booster shots after. If you believe that you are in contact with a rabid gray fox and have not seen a medical provided, the county urges you to call the health department at 716-753-4783. And switching gears a little bit, we'll get a check of our first weather forecast with Chief Forecaster Andrew Stevenson. And Ferrets? I didn't realize that they got rabies shots.
Something actually kind of interesting. We hit last Thursday, last Thursday, June 15th, there was multiple tornadoes that happened across portions of northern and central Ohio. So it was a pretty active severe weather day for portions of Ohio. Thankfully, we didn't get any severe weather, but unfortunately, there were 9 tornadoes that the National Weather Service in Cleveland confirmed. And while there was damage to homes and businesses, the good news is that these tornadoes did not cause any injuries and death. And on the enhanced Fujita scale, the highest rated tornadoes were EF2. So yes, unfortunately, there was some damage to businesses, but no deaths were reported as a result of these tornadoes. For the almanac for today, we made it to a high of 81 degrees yesterday in the city of Jamestown. Our low was 66, so that was our average high, or our high yesterday was a few degrees above our average, and the record for today, 95 set back in 1953. The record low, 32 set back in 1918. So here is your First Defense weather forecast for your Tuesday out there. Partly cloudy skies, maybe a chance for a few isolated showers or afternoon thunderstorms, mainly across the southern tier with a southeast wind of 5 to 10 miles per hour. And today's highs will range from the upper 70s near the immediate Lake Erie shoreline to the lower 80s inland. I'll have a look at that full forecast, including an update on the tropics coming up in the full forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, Andrew, we'll see you then. As WNY News Now continues, we take a look at a controversial bill regarding election dates. And later, feelings are on the up about our economy. A look at why, coming up. Stay with us, as WNY News Now will be right back.
Catch your First Defense forecast daily on WNY News Now.
I'm a survivor.
I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. Testicular cancer is the leading form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35.
1 in 250 men will be diagnosed with testicular cancer.
But 98% will survive if detected early.
As a survivor, I believe early detection is the key. Learn how to do a testicular self-exam and other important facts about testicular cancer at oneball4tc.com.
EagleZip.com is your local one-stop shop for all of your home and business computer needs. Located on Fluvan Avenue Extension, just outside of Jamestown, EagleZip.com sells and services all brands of desktops and laptops, as well as servers and network equipment for your business. All new computer sales include transferring your data from your old computer plus a 2-year warranty. Call EagleZip.com today.
Stop by EagleZip.com today and let us make computers easy for you.
3-on-3 basketball returns to Jamestown, New York this summer. Collaborative Children's Solutions and partners are hosting a Gus Macker tournament August 19th and 20th in Brooklyn Square. The streets will be packed with a festival atmosphere, bringing the youngest of our Macker mites up to the adult players who compete for the top prize in their divisions. Register online at Macker.com before July 31st. The Jamestown Macker will also include some specialty competitions, making it one of the best community events of the year.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
As session nearly wrapped up last week, lawmakers passed a controversial bill that would move certain local elections to even years. Now our New York State Capitol correspondent Elise Klein breaks down this legislation and talks to lawmakers about how they see this impacting future elections.
Certain local elections used to run on odd-numbered years. This year, New York State lawmakers passed a bill to change this. Senator James Skoufis, a sponsor of the bill, states this legislation will increase voter turnout. This legislation would move certain local elections, such as county executives, county legislators, and town board races, to even-numbered years. And this bill was heavily debated on the floor in the final hours of session, and some Republican lawmakers say this legislation, creating a longer ballot, could overwhelm voters.
Cramming all the other races into even years is going to be a disservice to the electoral process and the lack of knowledge of the candidates and the issues at the lower level of the voter going into the polls.
Some advocates say New Yorkers have various tools to help keep them informed and navigate ballots, such as nonpartisan voter guides, endorsement lists, and local media reporting. Ben Weinberg, Director of Public Policy at the Citizens Union, says aligning local elections to years of higher office elections will help increase voter turnout and bring the electorate closer to the demographics of the population.
And voters are informed not only by what they read in the press, but also by their life experience and by their background. And so the greater diversity of voters we have, just the greater diversity of those experiences that can shape the vote and our policies. And that's a good thing.
In Albany, Elise Klein, WNY News Now.
The legal battle between E. Jean Carroll and former President Donald Trump may continue into the new year. A federal judge in New York has set a trial date for E. Jean Carroll's defamation case for January 15, 2024. Last month, a jury awarded Carroll $5 million after finding Trump sexually abused her. Carroll's attorneys are seeking to increase the financial penalty after Trump made more allegations, defamatory remarks, on a live CNN broadcast. The former president's team is currently appealing that verdict. While Americans are feeling more upbeat about the economy, well, that's according to a University of Michigan consumer survey released Friday. According to the newly released data, consumer sentiment went up 8% from May to June. That brings it to the highest level in 4 months. Researchers say people are more optimistic since the debt ceiling crisis was resolved and the inflation eased. Another survey released by Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that in May, consumers' near-term inflation expectations fell to the lowest level in 2 years. While many schools in Pennsylvania are decades, if not over a century old, hazardous school conditions are a growing concern among district officials, families, and some state lawmakers. Now our PA State Capitol correspondent Brendan Scanlon reports on the push for more funding to address Pennsylvania's aging education infrastructure in the state's budget.
How to keep Pennsylvania's youngest residents safe and healthy in aging schools. That's what Democratic lawmakers like Bob Mursky are emphasizing just ahead of the budget deadline.
Schools that have asbestos, schools that have leaky roofs, mold.
Mursky, a former educator, knows firsthand the hazards and challenges for thousands of students and teachers.
In my own experience in the Erie School District, I've taught in buildings that are over 100 years old. I've taught in buildings with leaky roofs.
There were buckets on the floor at times until they could get up there and patch it.
New technology and innovative learning tools are placing additional strain on outdated infrastructure.
The educational technology has changed, so things that you don't see in the building, the wiring, the electricity, those things need to be upgraded to handle all of the new computers and then all of the new wireless technology.
This week, House Democrats and advocates called for a boost to make classrooms safer.
We're not talking about the Taj Mahal. We're talking about the basics.
In the recently approved House budget, Democrats included $350 million to address environmental hazards and structural renovation. Advocates want the Republican-controlled Senate to approve the investments, especially given February's Commonwealth Court decision, ruling the state's current funding system unconstitutional.
Because each year that we fail to fix the system, tens of thousands of children will start again in kindergarten, and without the resources they are legally entitled to.
We have an obligation in our Pennsylvania Constitution to fund education, and that includes educational buildings.
At the state capitol in Harrisburg, Brendan Scanlon reporting.
Coming up, don't light those grills just yet. We have details on a hot dog recall, and later we take a look at what some are calling a never-ending lightning storm. But first, we return with a look at our full weather forecast.
With coverage that matters, this is WNY News Now.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it. He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way, my kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping. Maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
WNY News Now is covering stories that matter to you.
15-year-old Yadiel Diaz was subject to a public humiliation stunt by a fellow student in an act of violence and bullying. Now Yadiel's mother, Raquel, has had enough.
Officials are trying to work with the county's homeless coalition to help support the homeless population locally. There are also plans in the works to build 2 new shelters.
WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
Move over.
When you see signs,
Lights.
Vests.
Please, give us some room.
Slow down. Slow down and move over.
When you need help,
It's our job
To help you.
to save you.
despite the danger.
This danger is real. Do your part.
Please.
Slow down. Slow down. And move over.
Move over.
Catch your First Defense forecast daily on WNY News Now.
Fast, accurate, and everyday. First Defense weather.
Welcome back to WNY News Now. Let's take a look at some of the weather headlines for the rest of the week. Temperatures this week will be above average. 2 weeks ago they were above average. Last week we were below average. This week we're back to above average temperatures. Most of the week, at least through midweek, will be mainly dry outside of a couple isolated showers. Today we also might see some haze from wildfire smoke drifting across the region, but the more likely chances for rain will come towards the end of the week. Let's take a look what's happening across the Northeast right now. We actually got 2 competing systems battling for control of our weather. We got a high pressure system up across Canada, and we got a low pressure system trying to move north from the south. Right now that high pressure system is winning the battle right now, keeping us dry across the region, but eventually the high pressure system will start to lose its control on the region, and the system to our south will begin to inch closer to our region. Well, tomorrow is the first day of summer, and it arrives tomorrow morning at 10:58 a.m. It is the longest day of the year, clocking in at 15 hours, 15 minutes, and 13 seconds of daylight. But unfortunately, after tomorrow, we're going to be starting to lose daylight beginning on Thursday, and we'll continue to lose daylight slowly but surely up until the winter solstice, which comes up in December. And summer will run until September 23rd, when the autumn equinox comes along. Let's go down to the tropics right now and give you a tropical update. We have Tropical Storm Brett, which is behind me down here in the Atlantic Ocean. It is just updated to a tropical storm, and this storm is likely to continue to strengthen over the next few days, and it could become a hurricane by either Thursday or Friday. So areas such as the Lesser Antilles Islands, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands will have to keep updated on their weather forecast down there as this continues over the next few days, because this is expected to become a hurricane over the next few days. Well, when we're not live on air and you want to know what's going on in the weather, you can always follow us on the First Defense weather page on Facebook. You can follow my weather page on Facebook at Weather Forecaster Andrew Stevenson, and we always have daily weather articles at WNYNewsNow.com/weather. Now here's that extended forecast powered by Ultimate Satellite Solutions. Highs through the week will generally be in the upper 70s to lower 80s. An isolated chance for a few showers today and tomorrow. Those rain chances will begin to increase by the end of the week as that low pressure system begins to move north across the area. So it looks like we'll have widespread rain Friday and Saturday, and then we'll have a brief break from that rain on Sunday, and then more chances for rain heading into early next week, Bronson.
It really does look like Mother Nature is giving us a break for the first day of summer, and that's it.
Yep, pretty much.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. And now we'll get you some headlines from across the nation. The Supreme Court upheld a crucial law that aims to keep Native American children with their extended family or members of their tribe. Tribal nations across the U.S. are praising the court's decision, saying the law rights the wrongs of extreme historical injustices committed against Native children and families. Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Rachel Knapp reports.
By a 7-2 vote, the Supreme Court ruled to keep provisions of the Indian Child Welfare Act. It's a law that was passed in the late 70s after a congressional investigation found that in the span of a couple of decades, Native children had been removed from their homes, some forcibly, and placed with non-Indian families and institutions with no ties to the tribes. Congress created the ICWA to establish preferences of Native children when they are adopted or put into foster care to keep the kids with their extended family, another family in the tribe, or a family from another tribe. In the recent Supreme Court case, those preferences were challenged by a non-Native family. They argued in part that the adoption preferences were an unconstitutional racial classification. But the tribes and the Biden administration argued that tribal membership is a political, not racial classification. Back in November, when the court heard arguments in the case, people in favor of keeping the ICWA were worried the ruling could do more than impact adoptions and children in foster care.
They're actually potentially very damaging to 200 years of legal precedent, a direct attack on tribal sovereignty.
In the court's decision, it affirmed congressional authority to pass the ICWA and rejected that it infringed state authority. The ruling is seen as a major victory for tribes. Choctaw Nation Chief Gary Batten says in part, Congress passed the ICWA to right the extreme historical injustices committed against Native children and their families. The law remains a critical part of protecting Native American heritage and tribal sovereignty. At the Supreme Court, Rachel Knapp reporting.
Sausage company Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of its Better with Cheddar sausages. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says that the ready-to-eat pork links may be contaminated with thin, black strands of plastic. There have been no reports of illness or injury. Johnsonville says that the USDA believes that fibers pose a low risk of adverse health effects if consumed. Still, consumers who might have affected product should throw it away or return it. The voluntary recall covers 14-ounce packages. Johnsonville Better with Cheddar smoked sausage link produced on January 26, 2023. And I better go home and check mine in the fridge. Ugh. Juneteenth and Father's Day are supposed to be times of celebration, but that's not the case for dozens of families across the U.S. today. Their loved ones are victims of mass shootings over the weekend. At least one teenager is dead, and 9 others were injured in St. Louis after gunfire at a party. In Illinois, at least 22 people were hurt, and 1 is dead after a mass shooting at a Juneteenth celebration. 5 more casualties of violence in Chicago. A couple hours east of Seattle, 2 are dead, and 2 victims were wounded after a suspect allegedly opened fire at a festival campground. Near Atlanta, at least 5 people are hurt after police say a dispute resulted in gunfire at a nightclub. Close to Los Angeles, 8 people were injured after a shooting around midnight Saturday. Also, over the weekend, officials say a suspect killed a state trooper in central Pennsylvania, and a 4-year-old got shot in Philadelphia. Well, coming up next, wild weather caught on camera. We take a look at the impressive lightning storm coming up.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first. WNY News Now is covering stories that matter to you.
15-year-old Yadiel Diaz was subject to a public humiliation stunt by a fellow student in an act of violence and bullying. Now Yadiel's mother, Raquel, has had enough.
Officials are trying to work with the county's homeless coalition to help support the homeless population locally. There are also plans in the works to build 2 new shelters.
WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
Hi everyone, Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that Smokey's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when there are parched or windy conditions out there, you gotta be extra careful with things like burning yard waste. After all, wildfires can start anywhere. even in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor.
Testicular cancer is the leading form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35.
1 in 250 men will be diagnosed with testicular cancer.
But 98% will survive if detected early.
As a survivor, I believe early detection is the key. Learn how to do a testicular self-exam and other important facts about testicular cancer at oneball4tc.com.
You're watching WNY News Now, your source for breaking news.
Thank you for returning with us at WNY News Now. I'm joined at the anchor desk with our chief weather forecaster, Andrew Stevenson, for quite the weather story. Now, with severe weather hammering the southeast, intense video of people's interactions with the wild weather was captured by land, air, and sea. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
The only thing wilder than the recent severe weather that socked the southeast was some of the video captured during the event, like a shot of a seemingly endless lightning storm over Pensacola, Florida, captured from a plane flying overhead, which unfolded relentlessly in front of a passenger who called it one of the most incredible things he'd ever seen. Concertgoers in coastal Alabama also caught the long-lasting light show while at another show, a James Taylor concert. This is where I would play Taylor's Fire and Rain if we had the rights, which we don't. But those electrifying moments were nothing compared to video captured in the middle of the storm of an unbelievable water rescue in Pensacola. As a responding deputy arrived to help motorists trapped in rising floodwaters, things went from bad to unbelievable as both the deputy and another man were suddenly sucked underwater. The pair were swept through a drainage pipe, traveling for roughly 30 seconds underneath a 4-lane highway before re-emerging unscathed 100 feet on the other side.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
The lucky-to-be-alive deputy went right back to doing his duty, but not before commiserating with his close-call compadre. How about we end with a submerged smile? Say cheese, along with this gregarious, grinning snailfish caught on camera smiling gill to gill in the remote Pacific. See, this is where Taylor's Your Smiling Face would be perfect. Man, we gotta loosen up the purse strings around here. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Well, you have thoughts on those lightning storms?
Mother Nature can be quite impressive, as you can see some of those videos, but you do not want to get in her way. Like when I talked about in First Weather with all those tornadoes that happened in Ohio, yes, she puts on a beautiful show with lightning shows, rainbows, tornadoes, but when she starts, don't get in her way because you can lose your life, you can get injured, and we want to try to avoid that as best as possible.
You're not even safe on your toilet.
No, well, you know what happens when thunder roars? Do you know at home? When thunder roars, you get indoors.
Do we need to get that picture back up and make Alyssa have a bit more PTSD about going to the bathroom during a lightning storm?
Yeah, that's happened before. Lightning has hit somebody's house. I think it was last year that it happened, and it literally exploded the toilet. It was not Chipotle or anything like that. It was a lightning storm. So yeah, I guess it's not even safe to be. Well, it's safe to be in a bathroom during a tornado. Just don't sit on the toilet.
And you were talking earlier about all these storms popping up down south, and with hurricane season coming here, what really can we expect for our area?
I mean, we've been pretty quiet. I mean, we had some severe weather going back into April, but it's been pretty quiet here ever since, and I'm okay with that. As long as I don't have to be severe weather, but if I have to, I will. But
we'll definitely get you covered right here at WNY News Now. And one more note before we end the show today. I know it's been a bit weird these past few days, but I have been out on a medical emergency. But now hopefully we will be back and in action and get more news for you starting tomorrow. But for today, that's all the time that we have left. We'll leave you with this live look over Lakeside Park. We'll see you next time.